We learned this weekend that an 11-year-old elementary school child with two other young elementary school students were in a store and they were shoplifting. And a police officer approached them, they took off running, and he tased an 11-year-old child. One, the child and the other children should not be stealing and shoplifting. Their parents should be notified, and in that internal situation within the home should be internally dealt with. And if the juvenile authorities are to get involved, well, then I don't hate to see that, but they should be allowed to do what they do according to the law. It was legal for him to use the taser, but morally, I believe it was wrong to tase an 11-year-old child only for shoplifting because the cop was too lazy to chase some kids. They were running from him. And so I guess they posed such a threat to him, he pulls out his taser and tases an 11-year-old child.
First of all, I heard the word legal in that, and I always hesitate to get too deep into these fights because I don't know the entire context of what had happened. Maybe she just shoplifted, maybe she said a bunch of nasty things to the guys, maybe he thought she had a knife under her 11-year-old skirt. Look, there are MS-13 people that are 11, 12, and 13 that are busted for hurting people. The 11-year-old thing, and I don't know, she wasn't wearing a sign that said I'm 11. He may have thought she was 13, 14, 15, and unfortunately we live at a time where you can't judge that. But we would not be talking about this if she was a white girl.
First of
all,
if she was a white girl, he never would have tased that white child.
That's not true.
If she was a little white child, he never would have tased that white child. Secondly, MS-13, they're committing direct murders with guns in their hands, and they're killing people with real weapons. This child was unarmed, had no weapon. She didn't pose such a threat to this officer where he needed to tase her. But what you want to do, you want to try to rationalize his thinking because whatever they do to black children, it's all right with you because you figure, look, we deserved it anyway. I got a problem with that. We tase one of your children that's 11 years old for shoplifting, you all go crazy.
Yeah, but here's the problem. If a white child is tased, I don't come on the show and say, one of my children, because I don't think of color that way. You're the one who thinks of color that way. And what we got to get away from in this country is that every time something bad happens to someone of color, that it's automatically assumed it's not because he's a lazy cop,
Sir, let me
it's
say
because
this.
he's a racist cop.
Wayne, you cannot urinate on my leg and tell Miss Rain, I didn't bring up color in this debate, you did.
Yeah, because that's why we're talking about.
If she was white, we wouldn't have been discussing it. I never brought up color.
Because
but since you did, I put you in check with the truth.
No.
That child never would have been tased if she'd been an 11-year-old white child.
Okay, so if your problem is that she's 11, she's
not too young to be tased.
Okay, well, that's fine. I don't know the circumstances, but I know for a fact that you talked about
just
race
like you
before we
just
started.
like they did in Cleveland when they killed the young brother with the little water gun in his hand and the BB gun. They shot him in the park, a 12-year-old kid. You ain't got a problem killing and tasing black kids. It's common like apple and cherry pie in America.
Oh, I think you just mentioned race.